Fresh Perspectives Mosaic, a creativity practice for the new year. Hi, I'm Dr. K.P. McKee. I'm the founder and executive director of a Spacious Place Creativity and Spirituality Center. As we walk through this practice together today, we welcome your questions and comments. We would love to hear from you. And so why don't we go ahead and just get right into it. Today, to do today's practice, you're going to need a few supplies. First of all, a sheet of poster board, a smaller sheet, like 9 by 12 works really well. This is a little bit larger than that, whatever you have on hand. A pair of scissors, a pencil and sketch paper, some old magazines, glue or a glue stick. I like a glue stick for this project. If you want to use craft glue, you're going to want to have some kind of brushes for glue that you can use for that. And then objects that are simple for tracing around, so simple shapes. Here are some examples. I have a bowl, a banana, an apple, and a purple ball, and I'm going to work with the purple ball today. So to begin your practice, take your sketch paper and list 3 concerns you have as you enter this new year. Could be something related to school or work, something about a relationship that you have. Maybe it's a personal issue that you're dealing with. And the purpose for doing that is that when we can put things into words, it makes it concrete for us, and we can look at it and see what it is that we're dealing with, and that's a good place to begin. And the second thing we're going to look at is what we mean by perspective. Perspective is an art term that is basically about how things look when you're viewing them from a certain location. So obviously, if I'm looking at the ball from this angle, it's going to look differently than if I come around here, or if I'm far away, or have it close up. And so we're thinking today about how we get a fresh perspective on those concerns that we're entering the year with. And one of my favorite illustrations of getting a different perspective on something is the movie Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. If you have seen the movie, you know that he is looking for the
the Grail.
Thank you, the Holy Grail. And in doing so, he has to appear to step out into nothingness. And I won't ruin it for those of you all who haven't seen it, but the different perspective on that step makes all the difference in the world. Also, if you have seen the Broadway show Jersey Boys or read Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, you recognize how a story changes based on the perspective of the person telling the story and how they view the events therein. So today's activity of making the mosaic is going to give us an opportunity to stand in a different spot, or maybe in someone else's shoes. And when we do that, that fresh perspective can refresh our souls with hope, because there's very little in our lives, including our concerns, that don't carry the potential for good. So let's hope that as we do this activity today, it's going to give our souls some suppleness to consider new perspectives on old dilemmas. So it concerns me that art making like this mosaic is something that we have to explain the validity of. Because think about it, any personal or relational or social change we have begins with imagining things differently than what they currently are, and then acting toward making that new perspective a reality. So art hones our skills in taking a fresh perspective and in moving from theory into actuality. So let's begin. We're going to do that by centering our bodies. So we want our spines to be straight but not rigid, and our bodies centered in our chair. Let's lower our gaze or close our eyes, whatever makes you more comfortable. And then we're going to relax our shoulders. Let's move our breathing from high up in our chest here, where we breathe when we're nervous, down into our lower abdomen. Let's take some deep breaths together. just this act of breathing turns our perspective inward, and that begins our new perspective practice. So, we're going to begin. The first thing you're going to do is whatever object you have chosen, you are going to just do an outline sketch of it. So just to show you what I mean by that, even though I've already done the ball, I'm going to outline just the outline of this banana so that you can kind of see what I'm talking about is when I'm saying a simple sketch. That's all we need. And then you're going to take your scissors and cut that out, which I have already done here with my drawing of my ball. And of course for that you can simply use an art compass and sketch around it. Then you're going to take your poster board, oh it's over here, and you're going to take your cutout onto the poster board. Now a nice little hint with that, if you have some painter's tape, you can put that underneath there like a loop-it, and it's going to hold it in place so it doesn't scoot around on you while you're just going to trace the outline onto the poster board. Then you can lift that right off and you're done with that completely. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to just flip through some magazines looking for colors that we're going to need for our object. So if you will look closely at this simple purple ball, you're going to see that there are shades of purple in it. And I'm even seeing some white highlights, maybe a little pink here on the edge. So you're going to be gaining a new perspective, not only what seems to be a simple object, but on these magazine ads that we flip through all the time. And I just went through this magazine and just found just a few, just flipping through, of colors. So you can take a look here. We have a nice blue right here. And then I have purple, and I'm going to pull this out because I'm going to need it for what I'm doing. So purple in this cloth here that I'm going to save. On the back is another blue. Here's yet another purple from an ad you may recognize. So I have these shades of purple. Here's a nice orange. Here's some purples and some nice strong pinks. Here are oranges of two different shades, so if you were shading something, you could use both of the things on this one ad. Here's a nice friendly blue. I really like that one. And then again, some shades of yellow in this last ad. So I also found this that had purple in it, so that I would have three choices to go from. So I'm simply now just going to cut this into small squares. And I'm noticing here as I look that even on this page that the squares get darker purple as they go toward the bottom. So I'm just going to cut these into squares, and as you can see, they don't have to be perfect. Just generally square shaped. Do a few of these. So I'm going to have a section of those. And then this is a different purple here, so I'm going to cut some of these as well. And if you notice when you look at a sphere, there's going to be darker shades that curve around the outside edges, usually toward its bottom. It depends on where the light source is coming from. So you can pay attention to that. I'm seeing some on the side facing me here toward the bottom. So I have a few of those, and then I'm going to use this other purple as well. I'm just going to do a little of this just to give you an idea, and then show you some examples of finished ones I've done. So this one has some texture to it as well because it's a piece of fabric. And I also noticed that I can see a white highlight here, and in this very same ad I have several shades of white here with the milk pouring down and also the bowl. So they probably had an artist create what they would think would be an attractive use of those color combinations to catch our eye and make us hungry for Raisin Bran. I'm going to get a little here off of the bowl too. Alright, this will be enough to get a sense of how we do this. So now I take a look, and these are the darkest purples. So I am going to follow the line, and I don't know what it looks like from your perspective, but facing me I have a line of the darker color right along the edge here. So I just simply going to put my squares here to define that curvature. And then I have the highlight here up at the top, so I'm going to use some of the white for that. I'm actually going to go ahead and put the purple behind it because the white will cover that up. So I like this purple. And these squares are a little bit large for the size of a circle. So you can think about that too. Right, now I'm just going to go over the top of this with my white squares. And then I have, as it comes to this side where it's a darker, I'm going to use a little bit of these purples now. And feel the edge of that come around. And then you can look and see where you're seeing the curves going, and just keep using the purples to begin to define the shapes of what you're doing. So here is a finished one that I have done. I did both a bowl of fruit here and an Easter egg for Easter time one time. If you find that this is something intriguing and you'd like to do a little bit more of, you can just pull out magazines and create you a little mosaic set of boxes here like I've done. I used some old boxes that had mugs in them and just label them as colors, and they have the different shades in here, so I can just go through and find that I want some darker here for shading and some light where the light hits it, and pull out the squares that I like. So doing this is time well spent, because getting a fresh perspective doesn't deny or minimize our concerns, the ones that you listed when we started this practice. But it helps us to perceive them with the eyes of hope, and we all need that. So if you have found this practice helpful, we hope you will like it on Facebook. You can also visit our website, www.aspaciousplace.com, and see the other things that we are doing, and make any suggestions about things you would find helpful to you in the area of creativity and spirituality. Also, if you are a fan of delicious cookies, we have a few more days on our Tips Treat Challenge. If you order Tips Treats using the code Spacious19, then some of the proceeds go to our services. And we're going to be doing another Facebook Live on February the 10th at the same time. So we hope you will join us for that. Let's close with prayer. God, we enter this new year carrying with us old concerns and hoping for fresh opportunities. Just help us in whatever ways that come into our lives to keep those hopes fresh and to give us a perspective that will give us reason to look for good in all things that come. Amen.